Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, July 1st, 2024. And it seems like June just disappeared. That was really quick. Let's go ahead and jump up to Friday here real quick. And we'll take a look at what happened. Actually, Friday had some pretty good price action. So let's take a look. It was after the first pop out of the open. It was a nice directional market to trade there. So let's take a look. Coming into the open, if you guys, well, I think Neil, you were here. If you guys remember, as we were coming into the open and price was pulling back here, we were talking about a potential peak above and fail scenario. However, I told you, for all we know, because the bulls have been so relentless, they might just come right down to our first roadmap level here, and that's it, right? So I think Neil had that heads up. I know he was here. And then from there, if you would have bought the previous daily close there, I think you took on maybe 1.5 points of risk max. And then it just ripped for a really nice push in that first hour of the trading day. And you can see on the way up, they did come into the FMA, had a little bit of trouble, popped through that, had a little bit of trouble around VWAP. However, on the pullback there, if you wanted to try your second long opportunity would have been right off the 200 there with zero risk, right? So there was a good opportunity there. Could have probably just bought the VWAP as well. And then they stepped up and came right to the top end of, what do you know, the holy orange power level, which, by the way, if you just look at some of the details here, came right to the hopeful there. And you got actually a short opportunity. It just wasn't in the direction of the move, right? So you might have got a little scalp out of it. And then they popped again, and you could have bought the hopeful there for this push, right? So there were some good opportunities. You even had a big 512 divergence as price was pulling back into hopeful here. And you could have got this, let's say you bought here super late, you still could have got 20 points to the upside out of it. And then once we got up there, unfortunately, we didn't make it all the way to the all-time high. Remember, the all-time high from a week ago to maybe 2 weeks ago now was our next roadmap level to the upside here at 55.88, right? So the all-time high, if you zoom all the way out, right there off 55.88 that morning, and then they pulled back, couldn't even make it back up to the all-time high, and that's when the weakness came in, and then we've been chopping around in here. So there is that high from Friday. They came all the way back up. The bulls tried to recover, and then they failed, just about 2 or 3 points in front of the all-time high, which was our roadmap level there, right? So let's see what happened here on the sell-off. There were some great opportunities there, so let's take a look. Move this back over here. And then, so the sell-off started. You could have still oriented yourself in the bullish direction here as price was pulling back. And if you would have bought the 200, missed it there by a tick or two, and then the second one, you just didn't make any money, right? You might have gotten 5 points out of it from 77 to 82, 83 in there. But then the whole thing started to drop out. We got our crossover. We got price coming back down below VWAP here. And unfortunately, price was so aggressive to the downside, they didn't even make it back to the 200 on that first bounce. So they held the back end of the VWAP, and then we got some nice stair-step action, right? So basically, held the back end of the VWAP and the fast-moving average, then held the back end of, there's the holy orange power level, once again being a perfect rotational area in the chart to enter in on the bearish side, and then capture the whole sell-off, right? So if you would have bought hopeful coming out of the open in the direction of that bullish push, you would have got over 20 points to the upside. And then if you would have shorted the back end of it here from 55.62, you might have taken on about 2.5 points of risk on that final test, and then caught the entire sell-off. And we're talking about from, let's see, from the hopeful here at 62, price made it all the way back down past 55.15. So it was a nice over 50 point sell-off from there with, 2.5 points of risk max, right? So there's the first tag of the 200 here, finally, where we have the confluence of hopeful and the 200. And you can see even that price, we've moved out of all the chop from last week, at least in terms of a directional move on Friday, because it started to actually give some decent stair steps. Remember, if we go look to the last 5-6 days, the price has been sloppy, just kind of going back and forth with no direction. But here we start to get some nice trending. But on the way to the trend, what do you know? They bounce back and forth right inside of the 2 roadmap levels until finally they fall out and then hold the back end of the 200 there to the tick for another great trade opportunity with divergence off the 200 in the direction of the trend, where you would have got yourself another, let's just say 10-15 points to the downside. Of course, they bounce nearly to the tick. I think it was 1 tick in front. No, it's to the tick right off our next roadmap level. So you should have taken profit there, and if you did, you got yourself over 10 points to the downside. And then what do you know? They continue the stair step, right? Because they held the back end of the Hopel. They held the back end of the previous daily high, only failing 1 tick in front. And then they came down. They did hold the 200, but then finally held the back end of the previous daily close with divergence on that peak above and fail for another opportunity to get in on the short side and probably ride it down right into the 50% level that held the market up earlier, and then right down to the previous daily low. And you would have probably just about nailed the low of the day, and you would have captured, let's just see, 55.50, 55.16 for over 30 points. So there were some really, really great opportunities here. And then even if you wanted to play counter here, you wanted to try buying some of these levels as price was coming down into them, you still got yourself over 5 points to the upside on that test. There, nothing happened at the previous daily close, but you did get an opportunity to buy the next daily power level there at 35 to get, again, another 10-15 point bounce. And then finally, if you did buy the previous daily low, you took on a little bit of heat there, and then you got yourself a 15 point bounce. So lots of really nice rotations off these levels, in many cases basically to the tick, right? So in my opinion, Friday you had a lot of really good opportunities to trade in either direction. And if you went in the direction of the long out of the open or in the direction of the short after that first hour and a half, you caught a pretty hefty move in the market. So that kind of concludes what happened here. You can even see at the end of the day there, coming right back to 50% of the previous day for that final short opportunity as we went into the extended trading hours there. So let's take a look and see what happened here in the overnight coming into July. And you can see right now, this is kind of exactly what it looked like last week, right? Just kind of no rhyme or reason. We did get some nice discrete holds throughout the night. That first hold out of the open on Globex there off the 200. You did get that beautiful bounce off VWAP. You did get the beautiful failure off VWAP with divergence for this little pullback, but it's not going anywhere. You might get 5, 6, 7 points, and then it turns around, and then you get 5, 6, 7 points to the downside and it comes right back. So it's a little messy right now. But if you look at where we are, if we just kind of jump up to the bird's eye view, we are trading right now right inside of 6, maybe even 7 days of chop. You know, we're right in the middle of it. So not too surprising that we are sitting here chopping around like a chicken without a head. All right, so let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames and see what they have to say for this morning.